Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the first year electronics class, session 15. Okay, in this session, we are going to study the what is PN junction diode under the heading junction diode and its applications. Okay, so what are the objectives of this topic means? In this, you are going to study what is PN junction diode, practical and ideal diode, its symbol, and what do you mean by biasing. Finally, you are going to study the summary of the today's topic. Okay. So here I have written the session outcomes. That means after studying this video, what are the things you are going to study? So what are the things you are going to understand means concept and definition of PN junction diode, ideal and practical diode, and what do you mean by the biasing. Okay. So now let us start the session 15 for the BSc first year, University of Mysore. Okay, myself Lata Kulkarni, Department of Electronics, Assistant Professor. Okay, so here first let us study what do you mean by PN junction diode. Okay, what is the meaning of, what is the definition of PN junction diode? What do you mean by DI? Di is nothing but the two. Okay, so as its name indicates, PN junction diode is nothing but it is a two-terminal semiconductor device. How this is formed? This is formed by placing the P-type semiconductor next to N-type semiconductor. Okay, let us learn the definition of the PN junction diode once again. What is PN junction diode? PN junction diode is a two-terminal semiconductor device. Okay, what do you mean by the semiconductor? Semiconductor is nothing but the conductivity lies in between the conductor and the insulator. Okay, so already you know what is the conductor, insulator and the semiconductor. Okay, so what is the PN junction diode? Di is nothing but 2. So because of that, what happens? PN junction diode is a two-terminal semiconductor device. Why it is called semiconductor device? Because this is the made-up of the two semiconductor materials. So that is why it is called a semiconductor device. So here you know what are the P and N type semiconductors. P and the N types are the semiconductors. So that is why the PN junction diode is called the P and two-terminal semiconductor device. Okay. So now what do you mean by PN junction? If you combine the P-type semiconductor to the N-type semiconductor, then it forms the PN junction. Detail you are going to study in the session 16. What is the PN junction? How it is going to perform? That you are going to study in the next session. Okay. So today let us study the symbol of the PN junction diode. Okay. So as what I told, it has the two terminals. One is called the anode, another one is called the cathode. It is a two-terminal semiconductor device. Okay, so first terminal is called the anode. It is also denoted by the plus sign, and this is the cathode. It is also denoted by the negative sign. Okay, let us hope all of you understand what do you mean by the PN junction diode. Now move to the biasing. What do you mean by the biasing? Okay, what do you mean by biasing? Biasing is nothing but what? When external voltage source is applied to PN junction diode, it is called the diode biasing. When an external voltage source is applied to the PN junction diode, then it is called the diode biasing. Okay, in the diode biasing, we are having the two types. Okay, one is the forward bias, another one is the reverse bias. Okay, one is called the forward bias, another one is called the reverse bias. Okay, here I have draw the circuit for the forward bias. So what do you mean by biasing? Some external voltage. Here you see I am using the power supply. That power supply is given to this diode. That means some external power is applied to this diode, that is PN junction. Then it is called the biasing. Okay, so in the biasing what happens, we are having the two types, that is one is the forward biased, another one is the reverse biased. What do you mean by forward biased? So when positive terminal of the battery is connected to the positive of the diode, that is P side of the diode, and negative is connected to the N side, that is N terminal of the diode, then it is called the forward bias. Here I have written the same definition. Okay, what do you mean by forward biased? When positive terminal is connected to the P, that is P side of the diode, that is anode of the diode, then N is connected to the negative terminal, then this circuit is called the forward bias of the circuit. Okay, now let us move to the reverse bias. What do you mean by the reverse bias of the circuit? Okay, what do you mean by reverse bias? So exactly opposite of the forward bias is nothing but reverse bias. That is the negative terminal is connected to P side and positive terminal is connected to N side. Then it is called a reverse bias. Here I have written the same thing what I have explained now, that is negative terminal of the battery is connected to the p-type semiconductor and positive terminal of the battery is connected to the n-type semiconductor, then it is called the reverse bias. Okay, let us hope all of you understood what do you mean by the forward bias and the reverse bias. So here what you are seeing, this is the practical appearance of the diode. I think some of you have seen this in your second PUC. Okay, this is the what here the physical appearance of the diode. Okay, this is what you are seeing here. This silver color. This is what your cathode and this is what your anode. Okay, so actually what is this practical diode means? It is also the same diode. Okay, it is also the two terminal diode and which allows the most of the current under the forward bias and blocks the most of the current under the reverse bias. Okay, now let us move to the ideal diode. Actually, what do you mean by ideal? Ideally is nothing but what? Okay, once again ideal diode is the same two terminal semiconductor device. So what is this importance of this ideal diode means? The symbol is same as the PN junction diode only. So what is the importance of ideal diode means? When it is reverse bias, it acts as a perfect insulator, and when it is forward biased, it acts as a conductor. That is nothing but the ideal diode. Okay, now so till now what we have studied, this is the summary of that one. Okay, so what I told you, after completing this session, we are going to understand what do you mean by the PN junction diode, practical diode and the ideal diode. Okay, and these three are all of the two terminal semiconductor devices. And next what we study, what we understood, when the PN junction diode is in the forward biased, then it starts conducting, and when it is reverse biased, it does not conduct. Okay, and when the PN junction diode conducts electric current under forward biased and it blocks the current under the reverse bias. Okay, And another one point about the ideal diode, we understood that it acts as a perfect insulator when it is reverse biased, and it acts as a conductor when it is forward biased. Okay, this is about the summary of this session 15. So students, please go through the MCQs and try to solve these MCQs. Okay, there are the 5 MCQs are there. So please try to solve these MCQs. Okay, thank you students.